You're listening to the RetireCoast podcast, where money, business, and lifestyle come together. Join us each week as we explore smarter financial planning, starting and growing businesses, and building the life you want at every stage, from millennials and Gen X to today's retirees.
This podcast is going to discuss estate planning and the estate planning portfolio. Most people need to consider what will happen to their estate if they pass away, when they pass away, and even before that. So if you want to make sure that the wealth that you have built over all the decades, you and your spouse, for example, and you want that wealth to pass on to specific individuals, then the only way that's going to happen is if you plan in advance. And many people have heard about the will, creating a will, but they don't get around to it. But we're going to introduce some other concepts too, such as the revocable living trust, the durable power of attorney, the advanced healthcare directive, the HIPAA authorization, and quite a few more for you to be able to take your wealth and package it up and pass it along. Also, it's a good place to put everything even when you're still around, because as you'll find out about the revocable living trust, you do have control over all of your assets while you're still living. But it makes it a lot easier, a lot less expensive when you're gone for your heirs to take over everything, because you can avoid probate altogether by doing all these things right. So some of these concepts are a little bit difficult to swallow, but we try to break them down into bite-sized pieces for you so that you'll understand all of them. We further have added a free tool in here for you to get started with the process. And then I encourage you to consider our estate planning membership, which I'll talk after this. Now, we're going to be presenting this in the form of a dialogue where two individuals talk back and forth about this. I really like this concept because it flushes out a lot of things that I couldn't do by myself. I can remember most things when I go through the process, even if I take notes, but the dialogue brings another perspective in. And I hope that you enjoy this and get something from it, and then I'll talk to you at the end. Thank you.
Usually when we think about a single piece of paper, we kind of treat it like a definitive, magical solution.
Right, to a really complex human problem.
Exactly. Like a diploma means you're educated.
Right. Or a receipt means you legally own that television.
Right. A marriage license means you're wed.
Yeah.
We love simple one-and-done pieces of paper.
It's human nature.
It is. And because of that, that deeply ingrained psychological habit, when people think about their life's work,
their savings, the house, the business,
all of it,
yeah,
the future of their kids, they almost always default to the exact same assumption.
Yep. The will.
They think, I'll just write a will, one piece of paper, signed, sealed, done.
It is a very, very comforting illusion, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, the human brain just craves simple check boxes for existential anxieties.
Oh, totally.
We just want to, sign on the dotted line, fold that paper up, put it in a fireproof drawer, and just never, ever have to think about our own mortality again.
Right. But we're going to burst that bubble right out of the gate today.
Absolutely have to.
Because what if I told you that relying on just a will means a judge you have literally never met, could legally freeze your bank accounts?
While your kids are frantically trying to figure out how to pay for your funeral.
Exactly. Or what if I told you that doctors could look your own spouse in the eye during a medical emergency and just flat out refuse to tell them what's happening to you?
It happens every single day.
When you actually look at how the legal system functions, how hospitals operate under privacy laws.
And how financial institutions lock down assets, yeah.
Right. When you see all that one magical piece of paper starts to look less like a shield and more like a paper umbrella in a Category 5 hurricane.
That is a great way to put it. Relying on a single document to handle the multifaceted reality of a modern human life, it's the absolute definition of leaving yourself exposed.
To be bleep exposed.
It's just a guaranteed recipe for systemic failure when your family is at their absolute most vulnerable.
And that really is exactly our mission today.
Let's do it.
Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are going to completely dismantle this dangerous myth
We really need to show you why a single piece of paper is a trap.
Yeah, and what you actually need instead. Because whether you're a millennial listening to this while, chasing a toddler around the living room,
Or a small business owner just trying to make payroll and keep the lights on.
or even someone looking ahead to a well-earned retirement, this deep dive is designed specifically for you.
We are going to try to save you from massive generational legal headaches.
So the stakes, they really couldn't be higher.
No, they couldn't. But the good news is the solutions, once you actually pull back the curtain and look at the mechanisms, they're beautifully logical.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our source material today is this incredibly detailed, comprehensive guide from RetireCoast.
Great resource.
It's titled Estate Planning Portfolio, the complete guide to protecting your family, assets, and future.
And written by Bill Anderson, right?
Yes, exactly, Bill Anderson. And what really caught my eye here is his background. He brings a perspective that is so far outside the standard legal bubble.
Oh, definitely.
Like he's an Air Force veteran, a real estate broker, and a business expert who has literally built and sold a multi-million-dollar national company.
So he's not looking at this from some, theoretical ivory tower legal perspective.
Not at all. He's looking at this from the boots on the ground, practical reality of how money, property, and families actually behave in the real world.
And that practical reality is exactly why I decided to set up my space the way I did for our discussion today.
I noticed that. Like the second we connected today, I saw it. For the listener who obviously can't see, you are sitting in this warm oak-paneled study.
Trying to set the mood.
It works. You have actual physical architectural blueprints rolled out across the desk and these heavy, imposing legal binders lined up on the shelves behind you.
It screams structured planning, doesn't it?
It completely screams structured planning.
Well, that is the exact mindset we have to adopt today. Okay.
Because a proper estate plan, it's not a wish list. It is an architecture.
An architecture, I like that.
It's a highly engineered blueprint for a transition of power.
Wow. Transition of power. That sounds intense.
But that's what it is. And what the RetireCoast guide makes undeniably clear is that the real focus here isn't just about hoarding money.
Or avoiding taxes, right?
Right. Yes, the financial aspect matters, obviously. But fundamentally, this entire process is about control.
Okay.
It's about continuity of your life's work. And, perhaps most urgently, it's about preventing devastating, irreversible family conflict during times of extreme grief and stress.
Which is huge.
Yep.
Because the source material lists some real-world consequences of failing to build this architecture. And frankly, they are terrifying.
They really are.
Like if you have an incomplete plan or just, a basic will, you download it off the internet.
Which so many people do.
Yeah, Anderson points out that the courts, strangers in robes, basically might end up controlling your finances.
Right. Your life savings can get trapped in this bureaucratic nightmare called probate, just bleeding out fees month after month.
And families, people who genuinely love each other, they end up tearing themselves apart in courtrooms.
Spending thousands of dollars arguing over what they think you would have wanted.
It is a tragedy that plays out in county courthouses across the country every single morning.
Every morning.
And it happens entirely because people do not understand the core concept we are establishing today.
Which is?
The estate planning portfolio. And I really want to draw your attention to that word. Portfolio.
Right. It implies a collection. Plural.
Precisely. It is not a single document. An estate planning portfolio is a highly coordinated, interlocking system of legal tools.
Okay.
Each document has a very specific jurisdiction, a specific job to do, and a specific boundary.
And they all have to communicate with each other seamlessly.
Exactly.
So if we're dealing with a system, let's start with the anchor.
The foundation.
Yeah. If this entire portfolio is a solar system, then the revocable living trust is the sun.
I love that analogy.
Everything else orbits around its gravitational pull. So let's start right there. What exactly is this centerpiece?
Well, a revocable living trust is, at its foundational level, a legal structure.
Okay.
I find it helpful to think of it as a fictional entity that you create in the eyes of the law.
Like a corporation.
Very similar, yeah. You build this entity to hold the legal title to your assets during your lifetime.
All right.
And then written directly into the code of that entity are the exact unalterable instructions for how those assets are to be distributed after your death.
And what's the big benefit here?
The crucial game-changing phrase here is, without going through probate.
Okay, stop right there. We hear that word constantly in the financial world, probate.
Yes, you do.
People talk about it like it's a disease you have to avoid at all costs. I know it's bad, but I want to understand the actual mechanism. Like, why is avoiding probate such a massive foundational victory in this portfolio?
Because we have to understand what probate actually is.
Break it down for me.
Probate is the state-run, court-supervised process of distributing a deceased person's assets.
Okay.
When you die simply owning things in your own individual name, the legal mechanism of ownership just freezes.
Because I'm not there to sign anything.
Exactly. A dead person cannot sign a deed to sell a house.
Right.
A dead person cannot authorize a wire transfer. So the state have to step in to manually unfreeze those assets and transfer them to the living.
And I'm guessing the state isn't super efficient at this.
Not at all. This court-supervised process is universally flawed in 3 distinct ways.
Lay them out for us.
First, the mechanism is entirely public.
Wait, public?
Entirely public. The moment your estate enters probate, it becomes a matter of public court record.
Anyone can see it.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Nosy neighbors, real estate investors looking for a cheap distressed property, or outright scam artists.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they can go down to the county courthouse, pull your file, and see exactly what you owned.
That's crazy.
They can see who you owed money to and exactly which of your grieving relatives is about to inherit a lump sum of cash. It strips away all family privacy.
You know, I never actually thought about the scam artist angle.
It's a huge problem.
But the idea that a complete stranger can look up a grieving 18-year-old and see exactly how much money they just got from their parents' estate. I mean, that is incredibly unsettling.
It happens constantly. They target widows, they target young adults, and that leads to the second flaw, the cost.
Right, court isn't free.
Far from it. The legal fees, the executor fees, the appraisal costs, the court filing fees, they are all skimmed directly off the top of your estate before your family sees a dime.
How much are we talking?
Well, in some states, probate can drain 3 to 7% of the total gross value of the estate.
7%.
Yeah. So if you have $1 million estate, that could be $70,000 vaporized just to pay for a bureaucratic process.
That makes me physically sick. And I'm guessing this isn't a quick process either. The courts aren't exactly known for their speed.
Which is the third major flaw. It is agonizingly slow.
How slow?
A standard probate case can easily take 9 months to a year and a half.
Just sitting there.
Just waiting. And if there is a dispute or a complicated asset like a business, it can drag on for 3 to 5 years.
Years. Oh.
And during that entire time, your family might be completely locked out of accessing those funds to pay for basic living expenses or to maintain the very property they're trying to inherit.
So they might have to pay out of pocket to keep the lights on in a house they can't even legally sell yet.
Exactly. So the revocable living trust is designed to simply bypass that entire agonizing court process.
Because the trust owns the house, not the dead person.
Exactly. Because the fictional entity, the trust, never dies. The assets never freeze.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand the mechanics of this fictional entity.
Sure.
Because if I put my house in a trust, I still want to live in it. The word revocable implies I can change my mind, right?
Absolutely.
Am I locking my money away from myself while I'm still alive?
Not at all. And this is a very, very common point of confusion.
It sounds restrictive.
It's not. When you create a revocable living trust, you typically wear 3 hats simultaneously.
Okay, what are the hats?
First, you are the grantor. That's the person creating the trust and funding it with your assets.
Okay, I'm the creator.
Second, you are the trustee. That's the person actively managing the assets.
Right.
And third, you are the primary beneficiary, the person who actually benefits from the assets.
So, nothing really changes for me in a Tuesday morning.
Precisely. You have total unmitigated control.
So I can still, refinance my house.
Yes. You can buy a new car with trust funds. You can sell a house owned by the trust. You can spend the cash.
Or I can just cancel the whole thing.
Exactly. You can legally dissolve the entire trust if you decide you don't like it anymore. That's what revocable means.
I mean, that makes me feel way better.
Right. But the structural magic happens because within the trust document, you name a successor trustee.
And who is that?
This is the person who seamlessly steps into your shoes to manage the trust the exact second you pass away. Or, and this is equally important, the moment you become medically incapacitated.
Instantaneously.
Yes. There is no waiting for a judge's gavel. The legal authority transfers instantly, privately, and seamlessly.
That is amazing. So, to make this abstract concept real, the RetireCoast guy walks us through a fantastic case study.
Yes, Pamela and Harrison.
Right. Let's look at Pamela and Harrison. They represent such an incredibly common scenario for our listeners.
Very typical middle-class situation.
Yeah, the guy details their specific financial footprint. They own a home that has several $100,000 in equity.
Standard.
They have an $80,000 RV that is fully paid for.
Nice.
Which honestly tells me they're probably living their best life on road trips right now.
Oh, for sure.
And they have a substantial health savings account, some Roth IRAs, and a standard taxable brokerage account.
So they've done well.
They're a classic textbook example of a couple who put their heads down, worked hard for decades, saved diligently, and built a really solid life.
And like millions of parents in their exact situation, their primary overriding goal was incredibly straightforward.
What was it?
They were not trying to establish some multi-generational dynasty.
Right, they aren't the Rockefellers.
Exactly. They simply wanted their adult children to inherit their property with as little confusion, delay, and financial friction as possible.
But according to the text, they had a wake-up call.
They did.
They looked at that $80,000 RV in their home, and they realized that simply intending for their adult kids to get everything, it was not a legally recognizable strategy.
Nope. Good intentions do not hold up in a probate courtroom.
They became deeply concerned that without proper, ironclad, written legal instructions, their kids would face those exact nightmares we just outlined.
The delays, the fees.
Yeah, I mean, they could just picture the RV sitting in a driveway for 18 months depreciating while the kids argued with the county clerk over who was allowed to sell it.
That realization is exactly what drives intelligent estate planning.
So Pamela and Harrison chose the Revocable Living Trust as their central strategy.
They did. It gave them the structure and the continuity they needed.
Right.
But they did something else that the RetireCoast text highlights as absolutely crucial.
What was that?
Something a massive percentage of people inexplicably skip.
Oh, I know exactly what you're referring to. They actually sat down at their kitchen table and let their adult children know the document existed.
Yes. It sounds so simple, but it is revolutionary.
Because usually it's a huge secret.
It is. They removed the mystery. You would be shocked, truly shocked, at how many people go through the expense and emotional labor of creating a comprehensive trust.
And then they bury it in the backyard.
Basically. They hide it in a floor safe or a safety deposit box, treating it like classified state secrets.
Which creates total chaos when they pass away.
Utter chaos.
Because nobody knows where anything is.
Right. By sitting their children down and explaining the general architecture of the trust, who the successor trustee is, where the physical documents are located, what the overarching goals are.
Or setting them up for success.
Exactly. Pamela and Harrison ensured that when the crisis inevitably comes, everyone has a clear, unified picture of the battle plan.
There are no dramatic, desperate scavenger hunts through file cabinets for legal documents while people are in the throes of acute grief.
Exactly.
I love the clarity of that. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second because I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone listening to this right now.
Go for it.
If I'm listening, I'm thinking, wait, if this trust is so incredibly powerful,
right?
If it's the sun of my solar system, if it flawlessly holds my house and my brokerage accounts and my $80,000 RV, why doesn't it just do everything?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Like, why isn't this the only document I need? Let me try an analogy here.
Yeah.
I'm imagining the trust as this ultra-secure VIP vault in a bank.
Okay, I'm with you.
It perfectly protects everything I put inside it. So why do I need any other documents? What about the stuff I just accidentally leave out in the lobby?
What's fascinating here is how universally people fall into that exact cognitive trap.
Really?
Oh, all the time. They assume the VIP vault is the entire building. They think, I have a trust, I'm completely done.
Right. Check the box.
But the text from Bill Anderson is very explicit and very firm about the strict jurisdictional limits of what a revocable living trust does not do.
Break down those limits for us. Where do the vault fail?
First, and most importantly, it absolutely does not replace the need for a will. We will get to exactly why in a moment.
Okay, so you still need a will.
Yes. Second, in most standard middle-class scenarios, a revocable living trust does not magically eliminate estate taxes.
Oh, people think it's a tax shelter.
Constantly.
Yeah.
People confuse revocable trusts with irrevocable tax shelter trusts. They are very different.
No.
Third, it has absolute zero control or authority over any asset that is not formally legally placed into it.
So the vault cannot protect the gold bar you left on the sidewalk outside.
Exactly. And finally, a trust is strictly a financial vehicle.
Meaning?
It cannot make medical decisions for your physical body, and it cannot appoint someone to handle your non-trust financial matters, like signing your personal tax return.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. The VIP vault only protects what you specifically intentionally carry inside and lock the heavy steel door behind.
Exactly. Its power is absolute, but its jurisdiction is narrow.
So I want you, the listener, to pause whatever you were doing for just a sec.
Take a mental inventory.
Yeah, mentally inventory your own Pamela and Harrison assets. Do you own real estate? Is your name on a deed?
Do you have multiple bank accounts?
Maybe an RV, a boat, or a brokerage account. If you have these things, you desperately need this centerpiece. You need the vault to keep your family out of the public, expensive nightmare of probate. But as we just established with the limits of the trust, the vault cannot hold everything. You're human. There is always going to be something left in the lobby, which transitions us perfectly to the second document in our portfolio architecture. Because the vault can't catch everything, we need a safety net to catch whatever falls through the cracks.
In a modern, highly coordinated trust-based estate plan, the last will and testament shifts from being the start of the show to playing a very specific structural supporting role.
Okay.
Legally, this specific type of will is referred to as a pour-over will.
Pour-over. I'm trying to visualize that. Like a pour-over coffee?
Think of it more like a massive industrial funnel placed directly over your VIP vault.
Oh, I like that.
Its primary specialized job is to capture any assets that you accidentally or even intentionally left outside of your trust during your life.
And it funnels them in?
Yes. It legally directs them or pours them over into the trust immediately after your death.
Okay, that makes complete mechanical sense.
Okay.
But wait, if it's pouring assets into the trust after I die, do those specific assets still have to go through probate?
Yes, they do.
Ah, okay.
And that is a critical distinction. Anything caught by the pour-over will must pass through the probate process before it can be dumped into the trust.
So it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
No. The will simply acts as the legal instruction to the probate judge, saying, hey, whatever you find lying around in my individual name, don't give it to my heirs directly.
Give it to the vault.
Give it to my trust and let the trust handle the distribution.
It ensures your final distribution plan remains unified, even if you made a mistake while you were alive.
Exactly.
That is a brilliant safety mechanism. But the source text points out that the will also has some unique, exclusive superpowers that the trust completely lacks.
It does.
Things the vault cannot legally touch.
And they are profound. The most critical exclusive power of a will, and this is especially urgent for younger families, is the legal authority to name guardians for minor children.
Wow. A trust can't do that.
A trust cannot do that. A trust is excellent at managing the money intended for the care of those children.
Right. Paying for school, food.
But only a will can legally speak to a family court judge and dictate who should actually raise those children.
Who takes them into their home.
Exactly. Who enrolls them in school and who raises them according to your values.
Let's pull Pamela and Harrison back into the conversation here.
Let's do it.
The text mentions that their children are fully grown adults now. But as they were going through this RetireCoast framework, they reflected back and recognized a terrifying truth.
They realized that earlier in their lives, when those 3 kids were little,
a will would have been the only place to legally establish guardianship.
The only place.
This is a massive flashing red light for our millennial listeners or anyone with young kids. Let's walk through the actual mechanism of what happens if you ignore this. If you have young kids and you die without a will, what actually happens?
It is a scenario that breaks your heart to even think about.
Give it to us straight.
If you die without a will naming a guardian, you are completely abdicating your parental authority to the state.
The state just takes over.
The state takes temporary custody. Then, a family court judge, a complete stranger who has 50 other cases on their docket that day.
Who doesn't know you.
Doesn't know you, doesn't know your values, and certainly does not understand your nuanced family dynamics.
Right.
That stranger looks at a piece of paper and decides who gets your kids.
That is terrifying.
And imagine this. Maybe your sister steps forward and says she wants them.
Okay, that sounds good.
But your estranged, highly critical mother-in-law also steps forward and hires a lawyer to fight for custody.
Oh, no.
The judge has to decide. You are forcing your family into a traumatizing custody battle over your own children, all because you didn't take 20 minutes to formalize your choice in a will.
That is just chilling. You could have prevented an entire childhood of trauma with a 2-page document.
Exactly. The power of the pour-over will is in its ability to dictate the intensely personal aspects of your legacy that a financial trust cannot touch.
And the source points out another major area where the will is uniquely powerful.
Yes. Personal, untitled property.
Yes. The text specifically calls out things like jewelry, family heirlooms, sentimental belongings, art.
Things that don't have deeds.
Right. I'm picturing a scenario where you have a beautiful antique grandfather clock that's been in your family for 4 generations.
A classic example.
You aren't going to go to a lawyer, draw up a legal title for grandfather clock, and formally transfer its ownership into a trust like you would a piece of real estate. They aren't titled assets.
And because they lack a formal title, they fall entirely outside the jurisdiction of the trust.
The vault can't hold them.
So the will has to handle them.
And let's be ruthlessly honest about human nature for a second.
Please do.
When you look at probate cases that drag on for years, people don't usually spend $30,000 in legal fees fighting over how to divide a Vanguard S&P 500 index fund.
No, that math is easy. We split it in half.
Exactly. They go to absolute war with their own siblings over who gets the grandfather clock.
Or who gets grandmother's wedding ring.
Right, because of the heavy emotional memories attached to those specific physical items.
That is an incredibly astute observation. In estate planning, the emotional value of untitled, sentimental assets often far outweighs their objective financial value.
Wars are fought over photo albums, not bank accounts.
Precisely. The will provides the definitive, legally binding instruction manual for those items, removing the ambiguity that breeds conflict.
But beyond the sentimental stuff, there's also just the stark reality of human error.
We are all fallible.
Right. You might spend months setting up a pristine, perfectly funded trust, and then 5 years later, you inherit a small piece of vacant land from an aunt.
And out of sheer habit, you sign the deed in your own individual name.
Or you open a high-yield savings account online and just forget to link it to the trust.
You leave it out on the sidewalk, outside the vault.
Exactly. The pour-over will is your ultimate backup system. It acknowledges that human beings are forgetful and busy.
It does.
I'm trying to come up with an analogy for this interplay. I think of the pour-over will kind of like the sweeper vehicle at the very end of a massive city parade.
The street sweeper.
Yeah. You know, the one with the huge spinning brushes that slowly drives down the avenue after all the elaborate floats the marching bands and the politicians have passed by?
Sure.
Its entire job is to make sure absolutely nothing gets left behind on the asphalt.
That's right.
It scoops up the stray confetti, the dropped hats, the trash, and mechanically pushes it all into the main collection bin so the street is clean.
That is a phenomenal visualization of the mechanism. The trust is the parade. It's the main event carrying the heavy, valuable floats.
Right.
The will is the sweeper. And without that sweeper vehicle, any asset left on the street is subjected to the default rigid rules of your state's intestate laws.
Intestate.
Dying without a will.
Ah.
The mechanics of intestate probate are entirely rigid. Without a will to instruct the judge, state law dictates exactly who gets what based on a cold mathematical formula of bloodlines.
So the judge just looks at a spreadsheet.
Basically. And the state formula does not care if you haven't spoken to your estranged, toxic sibling in 25 years. If the state formula says siblings get a 25% share, that estranged sibling gets a check.
That is wild.
The pour-over will is your absolute defense against a judge rigidly applying a generic state formula to the very specific leftovers of your life.
Okay, let's take a breath and look at the architecture we've built so far.
Good idea.
We have the revocable living trust to handle the heavy lifting, the big financial assets, avoiding probate. We have the pour-over will to sweep up the leftovers, protect the minor kids, and distribute the heirlooms.
The first 2 pillars.
Right. But here is a massive vulnerability I am seeing.
What's that?
Both of these documents, largely, are designed to deal with your assets after you pass away, or they just passively hold them while you are perfectly healthy.
That's true.
Let's dramatically shift the timeline. Let's talk about the scenario that honestly scares me more than passing away.
Which is?
What if you were very much alive, but suddenly completely unable to communicate or pay your own bills?
This brings us to the third critical pillar of the portfolio architecture, the durable power of attorney.
Commonly referred to as the DPOA.
Exactly. If the trust is your financial vault, the DPOA acts as your active, day-to-day financial guardian.
Now, I see the term attorney in there, and my mind immediately jumps to lawyers in suits charging me hourly fees. Can you clarify the actual mechanism here? What exactly does this document do?
It is a confusing historical naming convention, but you absolutely do not need to hire a lawyer to be your representative.
Okay, good.
A durable power of attorney is a legal document that grants someone else, a trusted friend, a spouse, an adult child, the explicit legal authority to step into your shoes.
And do what?
Manage your financial affairs if you become incapacitated. In the document, this person is referred to as your agent or attorney, in fact.
And what kind of power are we talking about here? Can they just, buy a boat?
Depending on how you draft it, their power can be almost absolute regarding the mechanics of your daily life.
Wow.
They can pay your mortgage, manage your individual bank accounts, trade in your individual investment accounts, file your state and federal taxes.
That's huge.
And legally sign contracts on your behalf. They basically keep your financial life breathing while you cannot.
The source text makes a very sharp distinction between two different types of DPOA.
Yes, immediate versus springing.
Walk us through the difference, because this seems like a trap a lot of people could fall into.
It is a major decision point. An immediate DPOA takes effect the exact second you sign and notarize it.
The second I sign it.
The very second. The person you name has the legal power to walk into your bank and access your funds right then and there, even while you are perfectly healthy and capable.
Okay. And the other one?
A springing DPOA, on the other hand, lies dormant. It only activates or springs into effect upon proven legal incapacity.
All right. I can hear every single person listening to this right now thinking the exact same thing I am.
Which is?
Obviously, I want the springing one. I love my spouse. I love my kids. But I do not want anyone having unilateral power over my individual bank accounts while I am perfectly healthy and walking around.
It's the natural instinct.
Right. But the text notes that estate planners actually often recommend the immediate option for sheer practicality. Why on earth would I give up that control?
Because of the agonizing friction of the real world.
Tell me more.
Let me paint a vivid scenario for you. You choose a springing power of attorney.
Okay.
You are 35 years old, and you get into a catastrophic car accident on your commute home.
God forbid.
You are in a medically induced coma in the ICU.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Your spouse rushes to your individual bank to pull out funds to pay the mortgage and keep your solo small business afloat.
Right, because the bills don't stop.
Exactly. The bank teller looks at the springing DPOA and says, "This only activates if they are incapacitated. I need legal proof."
And your spouse says they're in a coma in the ICU.
And the bank's legal department replies, "We are very sorry, but our compliance policy requires 2 separate notarized medical affidavits from 2 independent neurologists declaring total incapacity before we can unlock this account." Yes. How long is it going to take your panicked, grieving spouse to track down 2 busy neurologists?
While you're in a coma.
Get them to draft legal affidavits, find a notary in the hospital, and submit it to the bank's legal compliance team for a 3-day review.
That could take weeks.
Meanwhile, your mortgage check bounces, your car insurance is canceled for non-payment, and the payroll for your small business fails.
That is a nightmare.
An immediate power of attorney requires absolute, unshakable trust in the character of the agent you choose, because they technically have power right away. But it removes all the bureaucratic friction. The very second the emergency happens, they can act to save your financial life.
That friction is exactly what Harrison realized in our case study.
He had an epiphany, didn't he?
He did. The text mentions that Harrison was doing some reading during this RetireCoast process, and he realized that incapacity is not just an old age problem.
We always associate it with dementia at age 85.
Right. But it can happen on a random Tuesday afternoon at age 35 due to a slip on the ice, a sudden severe illness, or a car crash.
Absolutely.
And the brutal, unfeeling reality of the capitalist system is that the bills do not stop just because you are in a coma. The electric company does not care if you are on a ventilator.
No, they don't. And Pamela had a very poignant, deeply personal memory that reinforced this fear.
Story about her grandmother, right?
Yes. The text details that when her grandmother passed away after a long illness, her grandfather faced an absolute cascading nightmare.
What happened?
Like many older couples, they assumed everything was perfectly shared.
As you do.
But some of their assets were not jointly owned. Her grandmother had a few individual accounts, and there was a specific trust account.
Okay.
When she lost cognitive function, her husband found himself completely locked out.
Locked out of his own money.
Yes. He could not access his own family's money to pay for her specialized memory care without navigating a labyrinth of legal hurdles, all while actively grieving the decline of his wife.
Wait, I need to push back on this heavily because I think there is a massive, widespread misconception out there.
Let's hear it.
If I am legally married, doesn't my spouse automatically have the right to access my individual bank accounts, talk to my credit card company, and sign my tax returns? We have a marriage license. We are one legal unit, right?
That is perhaps the single most dangerous assumption in personal finance.
Rare.
No. Being legally married does not automatically grant you access to your spouse's individually owned assets or individual legal obligations.
That blows my mind.
If a bank account is solely in your name, your spouse cannot touch it without a durable power of attorney.
Even if we've been married for 40 years.
Does not matter. They cannot manage your individual IRA. They cannot call the IRS to discuss your individual tax return.
Wow.
They cannot sign a deed to sell a house that is solely in your name, even if they desperately need the equity to pay for your life-saving medical care.
That goes completely against what everyone assumes. So if the bank says no, and I don't have this DPOA document, what is the alternative? How does my spouse get the money to pay the mortgage?
The alternative is devastating, both financially and emotionally.
What is it?
If you are incapacitated and do not have a DPOA, your spouse or your adult children are forced to hire a lawyer, go to county court, and formally sue for legal conservatorship or guardianship over you.
Sue me.
Essentially, yes. They have to stand before a judge, present medical evidence declaring you legally incompetent, and ask the state for permission to manage your finances.
That sounds humiliating.
It is a highly public, deeply humiliating, incredibly expensive, and agonizingly slow process. You are literally forcing your family to sue you in open court just so they can help you pay your own bills.
That is just...
Yeah.
Okay, to you, the listener, right now, I want you to think about your own solo checking accounts.
Think about your individual business interests.
Yeah. Or maybe that old 401k from a job you had 10 years ago that you never rolled over.
Okay.
Who pays your mortgage next month if you get into a severe accident tomorrow?
Who logs into your accounts?
If you do not have an immediate, legally binding answer, you are leaving your family exposed to that exact courtroom nightmare. You need a durable power of attorney.
It truly is the unsung hero of the entire estate planning portfolio. The trust protects your legacy. The DPOA protects the raw, grinding mechanics of your daily life.
Okay, so the DPOA protects your wallet, your property, and your credit score while you're alive.
Correct.
But that leaves a massive hole in the armor.
It does.
Who protects you? Who protects your physical body, your medical treatment, and your human dignity when you are lying in a hospital bed hooked up to machines and cannot speak for yourself?
It's the ultimate question.
Does the person with the DPOA get to tell the doctor what to do?
No, they do not. The DPOA is strictly for finance and property.
Okay, so we need something else.
To protect your body and your medical choices, we must build the fourth element of the portfolio, the medical shield.
A medical shield.
Specifically, this consists of the Advanced Healthcare Directive and the High Pay Authorization.
Let's break down the Advanced Healthcare Directive first, because the text explains that it's actually composed of two distinct, very specific parts.
Correct. The first part is known as the living will.
Now, wait. Do not confuse this with the pour-over will we discussed earlier.
Right. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other. A living will has nothing to do with your property.
So what is it?
It is a highly specific written statement detailing your exact wishes regarding end-of-life medical care.
What kind of details are we talking about?
Deeply personal ones. Do you want a mechanical ventilator if you cannot breathe? Do you want an artificial feeding tube if you cannot eat?
Oh, wow. Very heavy stuff.
Do you want CPR performed if your heart stops, even if you have a terminal illness? Do you want aggressive interventions or simply palliative care to keep you comfortable? The living will dictates the whats.
Okay, the whats and the second part.
The second part is the healthcare proxy, sometimes called a medical power of attorney. This dictates the who.
Yeah.
This is where you legally appoint a specific person to be your voice, your active agent, to enforce the wishes in your living will and make any other medical decisions on your behalf if you're unconscious or unable to communicate.
And then there's the HIPAA authorization. We all know the word HIPAA.
We do.
It's that massive privacy law we all sign confusing clipboards for at the dentist's office. Why do we need a special, separate HIPAA authorization sitting in our portfolio?
Because without it, You are legally invisible to your own family.
Invisible.
Yes. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, was designed to strictly protect patient privacy. It is an incredibly powerful law.
Which is generally a good thing.
It is. But in an emergency, that privacy wall becomes a barrier.
How so?
Without a signed HIPAA authorization specifically naming your family members, doctors and hospital staff can, and often will, legally refuse to share any medical information with them.
Are you serious?
Let's go back to our car accident scenario. Your spouse could be standing in the waiting room, terrified.
And they ask the doctor what's going on.
And the attending physician might say, I am sorry, due to federal HIPAA regulations, I cannot even confirm if they are a patient in this hospital, let alone discuss their prognosis or treatment plan.
Just a total stone wall.
A complete wall. The HIPAA authorization is the legal key that unlocks the door, allowing your healthcare proxy to actually look at your charts, talk freely with the surgeons, and make informed decisions.
Let's bring Pamela and Harrison back in for this, because this specific part of the source material is deeply moving.
It really is.
And it really shows why Bill Anderson's approach in the RetireCoast Guide is so tractable.
Mm-hmm.
Pamela and Harrison didn't just fill out a PDF form online and stuff it in a drawer.
No, they didn't.
They sat down and convened a formal family meeting with their 3 adult children. They forced themselves to sit at their kitchen table and have the single most difficult, uncomfortable conversation imaginable.
It is an incredibly courageous thing to do. Most families will do absolutely anything to avoid talking about death and medical decline.
It really is brave. The text details their specific medical boundary, and it shows the power of the living will. They looked at their kids and said, listen carefully.
If 2 qualified physicians determine there is no reasonable expectation of recovery.
Right. Or no meaningful quality of life, we do not want to be kept alive on artificial life support.
They were crystal clear. No ambiguity.
And then they had to navigate the intense emotional weight of picking one child to be the primary healthcare agent.
That is a critical structural point.
Why only one?
When you draft a healthcare proxy, you cannot appoint a committee. You cannot say, I want all 3 of my kids to vote on whether I get surgery.
Oh, because the hospital can't wait for a debate.
Exactly. The medical system cannot wait for a committee to reach a consensus in an emergency. You have to pick one primary person.
And what's fascinating about Pamela and Harrison is that they didn't just default to the oldest child out of a sense of tradition.
Which is what a lot of people do.
Yeah. They actually evaluated the personalities of their kids and chose the child they felt was best suited to process complex medical information and handle intense emotional decisions under extreme pressure.
It's the smart way to do it.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I think this changes the entire framing of estate planning.
How so?
Doing this, writing down your end-of-life wishes, having this painful conversation at the kitchen table, it isn't just a legal chore to check off a list. It is an act of profound, unconditional love.
Absolutely.
Think about the psychology of it. By writing it down definitively, Pamela and Harrison completely remove the agonizing, lifelong guilt their children would inevitably face.
Yes.
If the absolute worst happens, those 3 kids don't have to stand in a sterile, fluorescent-lit hospital hallway, exhausted and terrified, and argue with each other over whether they are pulling the plug on mom.
They don't have to bear that weight.
They don't have to carry the burden of wondering for the rest of their lives, did I make the right choice? Did I kill her too soon? Mom already made the choice. The kids are just honoring her written instructions. It removes the guilt entirely.
That framing is exactly right, and it is something attorneys see all the time. The guilt and trauma of making life or death decisions for a parent without instructions can fracture a family permanently.
Siblings just stop speaking to each other.
Completely, over these exact decisions. And from a purely medical perspective, in a trauma situation, time is your most precious resource.
Right.
If family members are standing in the ICU disagreeing, if one child wants aggressive experimental treatment and another child insists on hospice care, the doctors are legally paralyzed.
Because they don't know who has the authority.
They will often halt care entirely and wait for a court order if the family is threatening to sue each other.
Wow.
These documents cut through the chaos like a knife. They grant the medical team the clear, unambiguous legal authority they need to act immediately according to your exact wishes.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We have meticulously built the machine.
We have
the revocable living trust as the centerpiece, the VIP vault that bypasses the nightmare of probate.
Check.
We have the pour-over will as the safety net, the sweeper catching the stray assets and naming guardians for the kids.
Hmm?
We have the durable power of attorney acting as the financial guardian.
Yep.
And we have the healthcare directive and high pay authorization acting as the medical shield.
The full portfolio.
Now, the RetireCoast text gives us a great way to visualize this architecture in motion. Let's watch how this machine actually runs seamlessly through the 3 stages of a human life.
The life cycle of a well-crafted estate plan is a beautiful illustration of how these disparate documents coordinate to function as a unified, impenetrable system.
All right, stage 1 is when you are healthy and capable. What is the machine doing?
In stage 1, the machine is mostly humming quietly in the background, completely invisible. You are actively managing your own finances. You are making your own healthcare choices. The trust officially holds legal title to your house and your investment accounts, but because you are the acting trustee, you do not even notice the difference in your daily life.
You buy, you sell, you live.
You buy, you sell, you live. The machine is on standby, protecting you invisibly.
Then we hit stage 2, incapacity. This is the unexpected car accident, the severe stroke, the sudden aggressive illness. This is where the machine violently kicks into gear.
Violently kicks into gear is right. The very moment you lose capacity, the architecture takes over to replace you.
Walk me through it.
Your successor trustee, named in your trust, instantly stepped in to manage the heavy assets inside your vault, paying the property taxes on your house and managing the stock portfolio.
And outside the trust.
Simultaneously, your agent under the durable power of attorney steps up to handle your daily finances outside the trust, signing your personal tax returns, negotiating with your health insurance company, paying your cell phone bill.
And the medical side.
Meanwhile, your healthcare agent uses the HIPAA authorization to read your medical charts, talks freely with the surgical team, and makes medical decisions based entirely on the strict framework you provided in your living will.
The transition of power is instantaneous and seamless.
No courts are involved, no one is suing you for conservatorship, no delays.
And finally, stage 3, death.
At the exact moment of death, a major shift happens. Your healthcare directives and your power of attorney immediately expire.
Oh, they do?
Their jurisdiction ends. They literally die with you.
I didn't know that.
Now, your successor trustee begins the process of distributing your trust assets exactly as you instructed.
Privately, efficiently, with no public probate and no drawn-out timeline.
Yes. And simultaneously, the executor you named in your will files the pour-over will to sweep up any stray bank accounts or heirlooms you forgot to put in the trust, making sure they funnel directly into the trust's master distribution plan. The portfolio accomplishes its final mission.
It is like watching a perfectly choreographed relay race, handing the baton from one document to the next.
It really is.
But of course, humans are involved in building this, which means we inevitably make catastrophic mistakes.
Oh, we certainly do.
The RetireCoast Guide highlights 4 common mistakes people make that destroy this entire architecture. Mistake number 1 is only having a will, which we covered extensively. It guarantees your family suffers through probate.
Right.
Mistake number 3 is failing to update your documents after major life events, like a marriage, a bitter divorce, or the birth of a new child.
Set it and forget it is a bad idea.
Yeah. Mistake number 4 is choosing the wrong agent or trustee, which, as Anderson notes in the text, can actually be far worse than having no plan at all if they steal the money.
A huge risk.
But I want to focus a massive spotlight on mistake number 2. The guide calls it not funding the trust. Can you expand on this deeply? Because from what I am reading, this seems to be the single biggest, most heartbreaking tragedy in modern estate planning.
It truly is a tragedy, and it happens with astonishing frequency.
How does it happen?
Well, people will go to an expensive estate planning attorney. They will pay $3,000, $4,000, maybe $5,000 to draft a brilliant, structurally flawless, revocable living trust.
They write the check, they feel good.
Exactly. They walk out of the lawyer's office holding a beautiful, heavy, gold-embossed leather binder containing all the legal paperwork.
Oh, I've seen those binders.
They put it proudly on their home office bookshelf, and they think, I did it. I'm protected.
They bought the VIP vault. They paid for the thick steel door.
Yes, but they never put a single thing inside it. They just walk away.
Wait, really?
A trust, when it is freshly printed, is just an empty bucket. Just writing a sentence on a piece of paper that says, I leave my house to my kids in my trust, does absolutely nothing legally.
The words don't move the house.
Exactly. To make the trust work, you have to actually legally retitle your assets into the name of the trust. This process is called funding.
Okay, so what does that actually look like?
You have to physically go down to the county clerk's office, pay a recording fee, and file a new deed that legally changes the owner of your house from John Doe to the John Doe Revocable Living Trust.
And for bank accounts.
You have to make an appointment at your bank, sit down with a manager, and change the ownership of your high-yield savings account from your individual name to the trust.
Oh, if you don't do that.
If you die with that beautiful, expensive leather binder sitting on your shelf, but your house is still legally titled in your individual name at the county courthouse, that house is going straight into the meat grinder of probate. Period.
Oh, my God.
The trust has no power over it. The unfunded trust is the most expensive, heartbreaking mistake people make because they did 90% of the work and failed at the finish line.
I'm going to use my vault analogy again, but this is staggering.
So let's hear it.
You literally paid thousands of dollars to build a state-of-the-art vault. You propped the massive steel door wide open, and then you deliberately left all your gold bars sitting on the front lawn outside. Unbelievable.
It requires meticulous follow-through. The legal paperwork is only step one. The physical execution, moving the assets into the vault, is step two. And without step two, step one is worthless.
So as we go through all of this intense legal architecture, you might be listening and thinking, look, this is fascinating, but I am not Pamela and Harrison. I don't have an $80,000 RV paid in cash.
Right.
I don't have a massive multi-million-dollar estate. Is this really for me? Do I really need to build this elaborate machine?
It's a very fair question.
The source material explicitly answers this. It identifies 4 distinct groups of people who absolutely must have this portfolio in place.
Yes, the guide breaks it down beautifully, completely dispelling the elitist myth that estate planning is only for the ultra-wealthy.
If you own property or love anyone, you are in one of these groups.
Exactly.
The first group is retirees. That makes obvious, intuitive sense.
Yeah.
They are protecting decades of accumulated wealth, simplifying the transfer of assets, and avoiding probate delays for their heirs.
That's the traditional demographic.
The fourth group is property owners. Again, mathematical sense. If your name is on a deed to real estate, you want a trust to avoid probate on that highly illiquid asset.
Because you can't just easily split a house in half.
Right. But I really want to look at the other 2 groups because this is where a lot of our listeners are going to be surprised. The second group identified is millennials with assets or families.
We touched on this earlier with the guardianship issue, but it deserves absolute repeated emphasis.
Why is it so crucial for them?
Millennials are heavily entering their prime earning years right now. They are finally buying homes despite the market. They are starting families.
Right.
For them, an estate planning portfolio is rarely about avoiding the federal estate tax on tens of millions of dollars. It is entirely 100% about catastrophic risk mitigation.
And defensive.
Completely defensive. It is about locking in guardianship for those vulnerable young kids so they don't end up in family court. It is about planning for sudden incapacity.
Like the car accident scenario.
Think about it. Who pays the mortgage on that new starter home if the primary earner gets sick and is in the hospital for 2 months? Millennials need this infrastructure just as much as an 80-year-old, arguably more, because the collateral damage of a failure is inflicted on minor children who cannot protect themselves.
And the third group identified in the text is business owners. Bill Anderson has a strong background here. Why is this portfolio so critical for an entrepreneur?
Because a business is not just a bank account. A business is a living, breathing organism with employees, weekly payroll, vendor contracts, and liabilities.
Okay, give me a scenario.
Let me give you a scenario.
Well,
you own a successful local plumbing business. You are in a coma. If you die or become incapacitated without a structured plan, the business instantly freezes.
Oh, wow.
Who has the legal authority to sign the payroll checks for your 6 plumbers on Friday? Who has the legal signature authority to negotiate with the pipe suppliers?
The spouse can't just do it.
Not without a DPOA. Without a durable power of attorney and a properly funded trust, a thriving, highly profitable small business can collapse into complete bankruptcy within 14 days simply because no one had the legal authority to keep the lights on and pay the bills.
14 days.
It is about continuity of operations and defining ownership transitions so your family doesn't lose the asset you bled to build.
So what does this all mean? We know what the documents are. We know the exact mechanisms of how they work. We know we desperately need them.
Yes, we do.
But here is the massive elephant in the room roadblock that stops almost everyone.
the cost.
How do you actually get this done without dropping $5,000 to $10,000 on an attorney right out of the gate? Because let's be honest, that massive cost barrier is exactly why statistics show nearly 60% of Americans have absolutely nothing in place.
The traditional model of estate planning is heavily front-loaded with attorney fees, which is incredibly intimidating and exclusionary.
It is.
But the RetireCoast text offers a completely different, highly efficient paradigm. They advocate for a methodology called preparation first.
Preparation first. I like the sound of that. How does it work?
The core argument is that you should absolutely not start this vital process by sitting in a mahogany-paneled lawyer's office, paying $400 an hour, while you and your spouse hem and haw over who should be your healthcare proxy or whether your sister is responsible enough to be a trustee.
Yeah, that sounds like a very expensive therapy session.
The lawyer's office is the most expensive place on earth to have an emotional family discussion.
Right. You shouldn't start with a lawyer. You should start with clarity. And this is a major focal point of our deep dive today. And I want to make sure we highlight how Pamela and Harrison actually achieved this.
The RetireCoast tools.
Yes. The source guide explicitly details that RetireCoast has built a solution specifically for this preparation first phase. They include specialized guided tools for decision-making and document creation as a core foundational part of their estate planning membership.
It is a brilliant, necessary structural shift in how we approach this chore.
How so?
Instead of staring at a blank piece of paper or sitting in an intimidating legal consultation feeling stupid, these membership tools guide you methodically through the process.
I won't break down exactly what these membership tools do according to the text, because it fundamentally changes the barrier to entry.
They act as a guided, step-by-step framework.
They help you build a highly structured, organized draft of your revocable living trust. They help you prepare all the data for your durable power of attorney. They give you the exact framework to develop your healthcare directive.
Exactly.
Basically, they force you to organize all of your complex decisions, asset by asset, role by role, emergency by emergency, before you ever pick up the phone to seek professional legal review.
That's the magic of it.
I'm picturing Pamela and Harrison sitting at their kitchen table on a Tuesday night with a laptop. The tool prompts them. Do you want artificial hydration in a terminal scenario? They pause, they talk about it privately, they cry a little, they agree, they click a button, and it generates the draft.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of legal efficiency, you can see why this two-step approach is so incredibly effective.
Walk me through the 2 steps.
Step 1, use the RetireCoast membership tools to draft, organize, and make all the hard, messy, emotional decisions in the comfort of your own home on your own timeline without a ticking hourly clock.
Okay.
Step 2, take that incredibly organized, structured, nearly complete draft to a legal professional for final review, state-specific tweaking, and formal execution.
It is exactly like doing all the tedious prep work in a restaurant. Kitchen chopping the onions, making the stock, measuring the spices before the master chef comes in to finalize and plate the dish.
That's a perfect analogy.
The text points out 3 massive, undeniable benefits to doing it this way.
Number 1 being cost.
Right. First, it radically reduces your legal costs. You are handing the lawyer a completed puzzle, not a box of 1,000 mixed up pieces.
Exactly.
Second, it forces you to actually clarify your wishes. You and your spouse have to have the arguments and the deep discussions at the kitchen table, rather than paying an attorney a premium rate to act as your impromptu couples therapist.
Which happens all the time.
And third, it ensures that when you do sit down with a lawyer, you are asking high-level strategic questions rather than paying them to watch you try to remember your bank account numbers.
You are utilizing the attorney for what they are actually trained for, their nuanced legal expertise, making sure the language perfectly conforms to your specific state's complex statutes, rather than using them as a highly paid organizational secretary.
Wow, that's powerful.
The RetireCoast tools essentially democratize the most difficult phase of estate planning. Preparation.
It takes the universal excuse of, it's too expensive and complicated to start completely off the table.
It absolutely does.
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, and we have gone incredibly deep into the mechanics. Let's do a final concrete recap to solidify the architecture of this portfolio in your mind.
Let's review the 4 pillars.
Right. We have 4 main pillars holding up the roof of your legacy. Number 1, the revocable living trust.
This is your centerpiece. The VIP vault that holds your major assets completely bypasses the public nightmare of probate and allows a smooth transition of power.
Number 2, the last will and testament. specifically the pour-over will.
This is your safety net, the sweeper vehicle that catches any stray assets you left outside the vault, and crucially, it is the only place you can legally name the guardians who will raise your minor children.
Number 3, the durable power of attorney.
Your active financial guardian. The document that ensures a trusted person can bypass bank bureaucracy, pay your mortgage, and run your financial life if you are in a coma or otherwise incapacitated.
And number 4, the advanced healthcare directive and IP authorization.
Your absolute medical shield, giving your loved ones the legal key to bypass privacy laws, talk to your doctors, and make life or death decisions based entirely on your written, predetermined wishes.
It is a profound interlocking system.
And it is vital to remember that if any one of those 4 pillars is missing, the entire structure is compromised and your family is left exposed to the elements of the legal system.
So I want to ask you, the listener, directly. I want you to look at your own life right now. Are your assets sitting in an empty bucket? Did you buy the leather binder but never put the gold bars inside?
A very common mistake.
Does your spouse actually know who is in charge if you get into a severe accident on your commute home today? If the bank teller asks for proof, do you have it?
Probably not.
Do you have the actual mechanical legal tools in place to protect the people you love the most?
The time to build the roof is before it starts raining. Once the storm of incapacity or death hits, you cannot buy the materials.
Beautifully said. And I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought, derived from the source's assertion that this entire process is ultimately about control, clarity, and protection.
It's a powerful shift in mindset.
It really is. We so often think of estate planning as this grim, depressing chore about end-of-life logistics. We avoid it because, fundamentally, human beings do not want to think about their own death or decline.
Nobody wants to think about it.
But consider this perspective shift. What if organizing this portfolio is actually the most profound, selfless act of caretaking you will ever perform in your life?
It's a beautiful way to look at it.
By taking the time to use tools like the RetireCoast membership, by making the hard decisions at the kitchen table, by removing the burden of impossible choices, and by dismantling the legal labyrinths before your family ever has to navigate them, you aren't just leaving them your money or your house.
No, you're leaving them something much more important.
You are leaving them the ultimate, priceless gift of absolute peace of mind during the darkest, most painful moments of their lives. Think about the people you love most in this world, the people you work so hard for every day. When you are gone or when you cannot speak, what exactly are you leaving them to figure out on their own?
Such an important question.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Stay curious, take action, and keep learning.
Well, if I did my job right, you have many things to think about after listening to this podcast, but we'd like to help you. We have our estate planning membership located at RetireCoast.com. Right on the home page, click it, and you can read more about what is included in it. But essentially, we can help you with all of the things we just talked about here at a substantially reduced cost than going to an attorney and having his clerk fill out all the documents for you. As I mentioned earlier, you can use our tools in there to completely develop your whole portfolio. And then when you're finished with it, you can print it and you can take it to an attorney if you choose to do that and have the attorney review it. And then you're done and you've saved thousands of dollars over the cost of our membership. But the point of the membership is that many of these documents need to be revised on an ongoing basis. Things happen. You sell an asset, you buy an asset. Maybe one of your successors passes away. You may decide that you want to change the direction of your will. So you can go in and you can make changes as long as you're a member anytime you want to, and you can reprint, download the documents as part of the membership. So I encourage you to go and at least take a look at it and read some of the other articles we have about estate planning and portfolio and that kind of thing. And I appreciate you coming to our podcast, and please come back and also go to RetireCoast.com.